Ricardo, and I'm just gonna do a quick video just going over how I did my first 2 wholesale projects. Actually, one of them creative real estate, not necessarily wholesale, but got a nice fee. So 2 different scenarios, 2 different approaches. Made some good money there. First 2 months, again, spent the month at YouTube University. Second month was just application. Yeah, ended up pulling in about 17,000 total. Not a bad day for a brand new job over 2 months. The very first thing I really did was actually, I had no idea what wholesaling was, to be honest, outside of Rich Dad Poor Dad. Some of you may know the book, and there's an example of it in there. But basically, I was at a kickback and just hanging out with some friends, and my buddy Danny, who actually works for me now, he comes up to me. He's like, "Hey Rick, I want to introduce you to somebody named Adrian." I was talking to him, and he said, "I'd like to meet you." So Adrian comes over, another young dude, hardworking, entrepreneur-minded. And he's like, "Yeah, me and Danny were talking. He told me you sell water systems." And I was like, "Yeah, sure do." And he's like, "Well, man, if you can sell water systems, you can sell houses." And I was like, "Okay, what are you talking about? What do you have in mind, right?" And so he starts telling me about wholesaling, asking me, "Have you ever heard it?" And gives me a quick rundown. And I tell him what I just told you. I didn't hear of it. Really, I had no idea if it wasn't for reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. So we talk about it some more after that night, and he tells me, "Hey, watch these videos." Some of you guys might know Max Maxwell, Jerry Norton, just honest to God truth, just 2 YouTube channels I got recommended to and started watching. I don't know, like, I kind of got hooked basically. So video after video, everything I can learn about the ARV, all that good stuff, and I'm just motivated. I'm like, there's actually, there's all these get money quick schemes or whatever, or just ideas. I was like, this one actually kind of makes sense to me. People always need properties. Like, this is something that's gonna keep happening unless there's not people. So it's just like a no-brainer. It wouldn't be a hard sell or a hard mission. So fast forward a little bit, after doing some self-education at YouTube University, I graduate and I'm like, okay, let me just put it in action. And so for me, the first deal I found was a Drive for Dollars lead. And so I think I was on, I'm gonna be honest, this is 2018, it's now 2024. I don't remember, and I wasn't organized like I am right now. So I just remember the property was on the east side of Greensboro. I'm just driving around like this neighborhood, I'm just like, oh, there's gotta be something. I see stuff pushing this way, there's gotta be something. So long story short, I drive past this yellow house. What actually caught my eye was there was a yellow posted sign on the door. And so that's typically, especially if you're driving for dollars, that's like a good indicator. Like, there might be something going on with this property if they're letting it get so degraded and it's just falling apart that the city's slapping, like, papers on the door, right? So I want to say it was also a demo order particularly. So that was like plain as day. It's like, hey, this property, whatever the city said, blah, blah, this house is going to be demoed unless such and such is made repair-wise. So from there, just use the county website. I think every single county in the United States has one. Use the county website to find out who the owner was. I just Guilford County real property search, put the address in, got the owner's name, and then the next step was making contact, right? So personally, me, I usually use Fast People Search. It's just the accuracy more, the data's more accurate, and yeah, it works. I've also paid for a list and phone numbers, but I find Fast People Search is really, really accurate. So moving forward, yeah, I skip trace this person. I called him, I get in contact with him. It was the brother of the previous owner. We get to the point where he doesn't tell us there's another heir. So the owner had a son. That's what it was. The owner had a son, and then I did the contract with the uncle, so he wasn't the owner. I mean, the previous owner had a son, so I did a contract with the uncle who technically wasn't the heir. So basically wasn't the owner. And then during title search, when we started running title, so I did it backwards. I should have waited to find a buyer. You learn from your mistakes, and I'm glad it worked out because I would have owed an attorney money. But yeah, I find this guy, Steve Foskett, really great. Shout out to Steve. Actually spent like 6 hours, just quick story in between. Spent 6 hours one day, like going to different attorney offices, trying to find one that's wholesaler friendly. So if you guys are ever in the Triad area and you're flipping houses or doing some wholesale or whatever creative stuff, Steve Fossett's really good, so you can Google him. But yeah, he gave me the time of day. He was like, man, I won't tell you how to negotiate, that's your deal, but I will take care of you, I'll represent you, Show me what you got. So Steve clears title. Well, during the title search, he finds out, hey, this kid actually owns it. He's the heir. All right, cool. So I get the number from the uncle, call him. The kid he's not a kid, but the son is dragging his feet, like moving really slow, right? And I'm worried because I've already made contact with the city now. On advice of Steve, he's like, hey, call the city, find out if you can find out when this house is going to be knocked down. So I do that. They give me a date. Again, I don't remember, but I'm telling the guy who has to sign a contract. Conversation went great. He verbally accepts. Yeah, let's do it. We ain't doing nothing with it anyways. But again, for whatever reason, just dragging his feet. Finally, I get to the point because we were close to the date that we were given, saying it was going to be demoed. So the way the order read was, I think it was like, let's just say it was September 15th. On or after September 15th, this house would be demoed. So it wasn't a specific date, but it was like, basically by this date, like any day from that date on, this house could be gone. And we were like getting close to that date. So the son of the previous owner was basically saying, oh no, we've got time. I don't know why, if he wanted to do the deal, right? Like, why do we have time? But he said his lawyer told him, or his friend or somebody, that they weren't gonna knock it down. And so fast forward a little bit more, I try to be patient, but now we're really getting close. And he had stopped responding to my text, not for a long time, but like for a couple of days. So maybe I just annoyed him, right? Being consistent, really. Like, hey, are we gonna do this deal or not? Some people, you know, again, maybe I seemed too eager, but it was also my first deal, so I was just going after it. So what happened? I skip trace where he lives. True story. So I get on, same thing, like I forgot how I did it. I think I used fast food search, found some addresses, or it was something, I think I used fast food search or the county, and I put his name in. And if you could also do a county search by owner name, and address came up. So either which one way, I don't remember. I skipped trace where he lived, and I went over there and I door knocked. I'm like, hey, we need to sign these papers, right? So he's not home. His wife is home, and she's all like, you know, scared to open the door, I don't know why. You know, scared to open the door, I don't know why. You know, scared to open the door, I don't know why. I skipped trace where he lived, and I went over there and I door knocked. I kind of back away from the door. I'm like, hey, I'm Ricardo. I introduced myself. I'm the guy that's, you know, buying the house, and I haven't been able to get in touch with John. That was his name. You know, I just explained. She's like, well, he's not home right now, but I'll tell him you stop by. All right, cool. About, I don't even think it was 30 minutes later, I get these crazy text messages and a phone call. It was like, I was getting cursed out. You had no business going to my house, and da 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 da, and all this crazy. And I'm like, sir, just calm down, right? I'm trying to do like conflict resolution, not working. It literally ends with like, F you, you're not getting my house, bang. So I don't know, maybe that was just his reason. Some people just don't like some people, whatever. Maybe he just wasn't rocking with me. So I'm sitting there like, dang, what do I do now? Because at the end of the day, he really didn't sign a contract. I don't have nothing. Like, I don't have nothing. So I was like, dang, so close, right? Oh, too good to be true. Nah, so I'm sitting there just thinking, what do I do now? And again, shout out to Danny, same guy who introduced me to Adrian. I call him like, me and Danny made money together. We used to go sell water systems together, all types of stuff. So I call him. He's pretty good at sales, techniques, tonality, you name it. He's an e-entrepreneur, does like digital stores. Anyways, Danny's just great, right? So I call Danny up. I'm like, hey, Danny, here's the deal. Tell him about the property. I say, here's the numbers. You got that? He's literally taking notes. He takes notes. Yeah, I got it. All right, cool. Here's the play, here's the number, here's what just happened. Call, lock it up. True story, Danny calls me back about 15 minutes later. I think I even gave him the DocuSign. So we did all that first. Gave him the guy's email. Danny's on the phone. This is how he said it went down. So he calls back, he's like, contract signed. I'm like, let's go. Okay, so we're talking about profit in a second. So literally calls me back like 15 minutes later. So maybe it was a little longer. But I just know it was really freaking quick. Like, after what just transpired. So Danny's basically on the phone with this guy. I was like, hey, well, you know, I'm serious. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he played it off like he didn't know me, didn't know nothing about me, whatever. So he calls the guy. He's on the phone, gives him the price. He's like, well, I'll send you right now a DocuSign. We can have this thing closed out next week. Because mind you, again, we already had the buyer, and I'll tell you how I found the buyer too. So at this point, yeah, when this blowover happens, you know, we've already got title search. That's how we found out it was him. At that point, He says, yeah, we'll do the deal. So we start looking for a buyer. We find a buyer. We have multiple buyers actually show up at the same time, which is actually kind of good. So they see that interest is there. But anyway, so come back to that, come back to the profit. Yeah, so Danny has him on the phone and is like, hey, I don't know, whatever happened, whatever. Long story short, sign the contract with me now. I'll send it right now. Gets the contract signed while he's on the call. I don't think that happens too often, but again, I think this guy was really ready to sell, and then maybe he realized he blew it with me, so he just wanted to do a deal. But it's kind of funny, right? The irony, he still sold his house to me. Me and Danny had an agreement in place already. He was, we just did a JV agreement, which is a joint venture. Still sold it to my end buyer. We ended up making just shy of $9,000. This whole process probably took like maybe 3 weeks or a month. I don't even think it took a month, probably like 3 weeks. Again, there was already that demo on the list on the door, so things kind of moved quick. But the way we found the buyer was just the Zillow hack. That's what I tell people. I just literally looked at properties that were for rent. Clearly, if you're renting it out, you're not living there. And I just started calling people. I also did what do you call it? A Craigslist post. Did a Craigslist post, got a lot of traction there. Started to build my buyers list off. Even the ones that didn't buy, I still added them to my list, to my network. So that was pretty good marketing. So yeah, Spanish lady ended up seeing it, coming by, and another guy came by as well, and they were there together. And she told me right there, like, the value was in it. She saw it, so she pulled me off to the side. The guy had offered full price. The other guy, he was like, yeah, I'll do full price. And me and him, which I think I was putting it out for like 21, 22. We got it for 10K. So yeah, we sold it for like 19, basically. And so Paola pulled me off to the side. She's like, I won't pay that much. I'll pay this much, which is a little bit less than asking. She was like, but I will send the down payment tomorrow to let you know I'm serious. I was like, are you serious? And she's like, yeah, I'm serious. All right, cool. Very, very next day, she wired a down payment to my bank account. No, I'm lying. She sent it to the attorney because I didn't know about getting payment sent to me at that time, or that was a thing. But yeah, she sent the down payment. I think it was like $3,000. Sent it to the attorney, signed the contract. So we already had her in the shoot, right? She was on board. And so yeah, Danny calls me back. Rick, I got the contract. This guy still ended up selling me the house. Didn't even know it. And that was deal number one. Pretty good experience overall. Maybe I was a little too pushy. I kind of reflected on that, but it also shows being consistent and going after it can get things done. Having a good team around you. And that's something else that's kind of been a recurring theme in just different parts of life. Worked at a car dealership. If you have some good guys and you got good, break bread, it's good to get money, get it with other people too. I would have made $0 if I would have kept that deal to myself, right? Maybe I can re-engage him in a week when he calms down. But instead, I call my friend Danny, who I know is amazing too, and I'm like, hey, here's the play, here's the rundown. Go get us this property on the contract. I'll split this with you 50-50. And that's what I did. Me and him cut that cake right down the middle. So some good key takeaways again. Having good people around you. Be tenacious, be resilient, be committed and consistent. And don't ever lose your cool. Don't get emotional about this stuff. When the guy called me kind of tweaking, for lack of better terms. Just remain composed, because don't put an emotion to it. But moving on. Deal number 2 was a little bit different. I looked at expired listings, and I think I did PropStream. So I pulled a PropStream. It was either PropStream or no, I think it was Zillow. I'm lying. So you could also look at it. I want to say you can look at expired listings on Zillow. I'm pretty sure. And now I use MLS to do it. But yeah, so at the time, anyways, I found this expired listing. Same scenario, skip trace the owner, find out the information from the county, skip trace them. And in this particular case, I used a text app. So an online text service. I'm just blasting out. I built my list now, whether it was Zillow expired listings or, however I was finding these expired listings. So basically, I just built this list, and then I just started texting them, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. I just kind of overdid it. I think I was using text now, and I got a message like, hey, basically you need to chill out or your privileges will be revoked. Guess I was spamming, right? So just, hey, I saw your property was listed at one point. It basically with the text message read, hey, I saw your property was listed, it expired. Have you given up on selling? And something just basic like that. And finally I got a few hitbacks, and I got one that turned into a really good conversation. Basically, the story with this one was the guy had two houses. This particular house that he had tried to sell and it failed, and another one. And this was in Brown Summit, which is just like northeast of Greensboro. So he had two houses, and he was renting out the second one that we were at, and the tub ruptured or something happened in the bathroom, causing some water damage, flooding. He had to move the tenants out in an emergency. It was like, basically it was bad enough that it wasn't habitable anymore. So I'm guessing it like flooded the apartment out. And then the tenants moved on. So now he's stuck with this house. He has to do a rehab on it, right? And it did need some updating. So if you're gonna do the bathroom and now you wanna rent it out again, now you gotta do most of the floor as well, or at least like, but it was a nice job. It was probably, I wanna say, it's about 1,000 square feet, probably about 40K rehab. Needed to do a deck in the backyard outside to fix the bathroom, a whole cosmetics inside. But interesting thing about this one. So I got the lead by doing a text, text blast basically. Ended up doing what's called a sub 2 deal. And so for those that don't know, a sub 2 is a subject to the mortgage agreement where basically you take over the seller's payment on their mortgage. Now you can structure this a couple ways. I just went for the bag. I just said, give me my wholesale fee. It was like $8,500. I took it, but you can also work yourself into the deal and actually make more money over time by payments. The key thing though is you want to make sure it cash flows. So whatever the mortgage is, right? Let's just say, and again, this was 2018, 2019. I don't remember the exact mortgages, what the mortgage was, but it was enough that you could, after you put, you put it out for market rent, you were gonna make a nice piece of coin. And that's after the, considering like the tax bill on it, the property insurance, it still made sense to multiple buyers. So, in my case, I took like a wholesale fee, but you can structure it to where you're getting some of those payments that come in from the rent, and that'll go towards you. And typically, you're able to work out more for yourself. But again, I was just like, give it to me. So that's what we do. We set up this subject to agreement. I find a buyer. They're still buyers of mine today. They go out and look at stuff all the time. They bought more than one from. I think they've bought 3 from me over the last few years. They're also painters. So they just do a project here and there. But they're actively looking again right now. So that's pretty cool. So they end up coming up, picking up the mortgage. And we let the lawyer set everything up. We used a different closing attorney this time, only because I think Steve was out on vacation. He told me ahead of time, and so he actually referred me to another closing attorney who was in High Point, and the guy retired. He's not working no more, so his name is pointless. But yeah, he set it up. He set the subject to up, and that was that. I took my payment, closed the deal. Smaller profit, not by much, $8,500. Still not a bad day. That whole process probably took me like 2 or 3 weeks as well. I don't think either one of them actually went over a month. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to take a check to the bank and hear like I had to go to a different tailor or a different branch because they didn't have enough money right there, which is kind of weird. Where do they keep the money out of the bank? They didn't have enough to cash it, so I actually had to go to 2 different locations. And again, that's not a lot of money, but apparently it was for them that day, and that was pretty badass. Like, yeah, I did that. Shout out to God, he gets the glory. But you got to put hard work and faith together. So a couple things between the first 2 deals. I just thought it was going to be that easy. So I did some more driving around. I kind of slacked off, I got my 9K. We split it. It was like 45, whatever. But I was feeling good, and I waited to basically the end of the month. I waited to the end of the month when I almost had basically spent all that money. Like I was working doing other stuff, lead generation on the side, but I definitely spent like my share. I was just kind of excited, whatever. So I started looking for another deal. I'm like, whatever, I'll just flip another one. And it wasn't as easy. It's not, it's like, it's not easy. You gotta bang the phones, you gotta do this. So I kind of slacked off, and I still got another one fairly quickly, but I should have been consistent. Like closed that one and then started looking immediately. and just kind of keep that deal flow going. You know, as soon as you get a property under contract, you need, you know, great, moving on, find your buyer. It's going to closing, start looking for another deal. All right, don't get complacent. Don't be lazy. It's not as easy as it always seems. And same thing with buyers. Like, somebody buys a house from you, switch back to, put your disposition hat on, your networking hat on, and find you like 3 or 4 new investors, because that buyer is probably going to be out for a little bit, flipping a house or working on that project, or maybe they have multiple projects and that one tapped them out. But one thing you know for sure is they just bought a house, so their resources are going to be less than what they were before they bought the house. So replace that buyer. So appreciate you listening to my first 2 stories. YouTube University helped a lot. We're actually going to be dropping some videos here, just live training, or really it's not even training, it's really just screen recording as we do stuff and just posting it. So whether that's how to comp on MLS, different services we use, whatever software we've used. Sometimes you hear like live phone calls with investors. So yeah, this is Ricardo with Castle Snow's organization. Shout out to Amari, the team member who put this all together. God bless.